Hi, this is Kavita Ramesh, working as Assistant Professor in Faculty of Management, SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Ramapuram, Chennai. Today we are going to discuss sampling. How do I select participants in my research? Now, what is sampling? When conducting research on a group of people, it is rare to collect data from every person in that group. Obtaining information from a large data set can be time consuming, so taking sample data can be quicker and provide similar results. But to draw valid conclusions from your results, you have to carefully decide how you will select a sample that should represent the group as a whole. This practice is all about sampling. Now, definition for the sampling. Sampling is the method of selecting a small section of a larger group in order to estimate the characteristics of the entire group. For example, if a company wants to know the type of shoes that women between the age group of 25 to 30 would prefer to wear to the office, they could analyze a sample data set from a smaller area of the city rather than extracting data from the whole city. The result could be similar. Population versus sample. First, you need to understand the difference between a population and a sample and identify the target population of your research. What is population? The total number of people you are interested in. What is sample? A smaller number within your population that will represent the whole. Now, what is sampling? The process and method of selecting your sample. This is the picture for the difference between population and sample. Types of sampling. There are two primary types of sampling methods that you can use in your research. First one, probability sampling. Second one, non-probability sampling. Probability sampling involves random selection, allowing you to make strong statistical inferences about the whole group. In probability sampling, every member of the population has a chance of being selected. It is mainly used in quantitative research. Non-probability sampling involves non-random selection based on convenience or other criteria, allowing you to easily collect data. In a non-probability sample, individuals are selected based on non-random criteria, and not every individual has a chance of being included. Non-probability sampling is easier and cheaper to access, but it has a higher risk of sampling bias. This means the inferences you can make about the population are weaker than with probability samples, and your conclusions may be more limited. Non-probability sampling techniques are often used in exploratory and qualitative research. In these types of research, the aim is not to test a hypothesis about a broad population, but to develop an initial understanding of a small or under-researched population. Probability sampling methods and non-probability sampling methods. Under probability sampling methods, there are four simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, and cluster sampling. Under non-probability sampling, there are again 4: convenience sampling, purposive or judgment sampling, snowball or chain referral sampling, and quota sampling. Probability sampling methods. First one, simple random sampling. In a simple random sample, every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. To conduct this type of sampling, you can use tools like random number generators or other techniques. This sample is based entirely on chance. Example for the simple random sampling. Suppose you want to select a simple random sample of 1000 employees of a social media marketing company. You assign a number to every employee in the company database from 1 to 1000 and use a random number generator to select 100 numbers. Second one, systematic sampling. Systematic sampling is similar to simple random sampling, but it is usually slightly easier to conduct. Every member of the population is listed with a number, but instead of randomly generating numbers, individuals are chosen on the basis of any system here. Example for systematic sampling. All employees of the company are listed in alphabetical order. From the first 10 numbers, you randomly select a starting point, number 6. From number 6 onwards, every 10th person on the list is selected, like 6, 16, 26, 36, and so on. And you end up with a sample of 100 people now. Next one is stratified sampling. Stratified sampling involves dividing the population into subpopulations that may differ in important ways. It allows you to draw more precise conclusions by ensuring that every subgroup is properly represented in the sample. To use this sampling method, you divide the population into subgroups called strata based on the relevant characteristics like gender, age, income, job role, etc. Based on the overall proportions of the population, you calculate how many people should be sampled from each subgroup. Then you can use random or systematic sampling to select a sample from each subgroup. Example for the stratified sampling. Suppose the company has 800 female employees and 200 male employees. You want to ensure that the sample reflects the gender balance of the company. So, you sort the population into 2 strata based on gender. Then, you use random sampling on each group, selecting 80 women and 20 men, which gives you a representative sample of 100 people. Last one from probability sampling is cluster sampling. Cluster sampling also involves dividing the population into subgroups, but each subgroup should have similar characteristics to the whole sample. Instead of sampling individuals from each subgroup, you randomly select the entire subgroup here This method is good for dealing with large and dispersed populations, but there is more risk of error in the sample as there could be substantial differences between clusters. It is difficult to guarantee that the sampled clusters are really representative of the whole population. Example for the cluster sampling. Suppose your company has offices in 10 cities across the country. You don't have the capacity or time to travel to every office to collect your data. So, you use random sampling to select 3 offices. These are your clusters here. Next, we are moving on to non-probability sampling methods. First one, convenience sampling. A convenience sample simply includes the individuals who happen to be most accessible to the researcher. This is an easy and inexpensive way to gather initial data. But there is no way to tell if the sample is representative of the population. So, it can't produce generalizable results. Convenience samples are at risk of sampling bias. Example for the convenience sampling. Suppose you are a student in a university. You are researching opinions about student support services in your university. You ask your fellow students to complete a survey on this topic. This is a convenient way to gather data. But as you only surveyed students in your class, the sample is not representative of all the students at your university. Second one, purposive or judgment sampling. This involves the researcher using their expertise to select a sample that is most useful to the purposes of the research. This sampling method relies on the researcher's judgment when identifying and selecting the individuals. It is often used in qualitative research, where the researcher wants to gain detailed knowledge about a specific phenomenon rather than make statistical inferences, or where the population is very small and specific. Example for the purposive sampling. Purposive sampling can be used in educational research. Suppose a teacher wants to collect feedback from students on the teaching methods in his college. The researcher will select the brightest students who can provide relevant information for systematic investigation. Third one is snowball or chain referral sampling. If the population is hard to access, snowball sampling can be used to select participants via other participants. The number of people you have access to snowballs as you get in contact with more people. Example for snowball sampling. You are researching experiences of homelessness in your city. Since there is no list of all homeless people in the city, probability sampling is not possible. You meet one person who agrees to participate in the research, and she puts you in contact with other homeless people that she knows in the area. Last one, quota sampling. Quota sampling relies on the non-random selection of a predetermined number or proportion of units. This is called a quota. Dividing the population into subgroups called strata and then select sample units until you reach your quota. These units share specific characteristics. Example for quota sampling. You want to know the consumer interest in a new delivery service in Boston, focused on dietary preferences. You divide the population into meat eaters, vegetarians, and vegans. Since the company wants to provide the service to all the consumers, you set a quota of 200 people for each dietary group. In this way, all dietary preferences are equally represented in your research. You continue selecting until you reach the quota of 200 participants for each subgroup. This is the picture for snowball sampling. That's all. Thank you. Have a nice day.